An actor, it's kind of like a baby that likes, a tight tuck in the crib, with, a tight blanket, and I feel more secure, and with Rob, sure fits that way. Also, something that's, sometimes not really discussed, but it's very important to us actors. That is, he has great catering. Because, you can shortchange us and make us do all kinds of horrible shit at 4 in the morning, freezing our asses off. But if you feed us well, we'll go the extra mile. And I think somehow Rob must know that maybe from the rock and roll circuit, because, it's always a good groaning board, and, we're all willing to, keep going for it. Yeah.
They first approached you about doing Otis. How did they describe that character to you, and how much of that did you take and make your own?
It's funny. I first met Rob. I had been invited to MC an outdoor horror award show when Halloween. It was Halloween. I guess it was 1999. It was at Universal Studios in Burbank, California. Something called the iCore Awards. And I had a friend who wanted to city walk and asked if I wanted to MC this little award show, and I said, yeah, I guess. I said, do you want me to come in character? And he said, yeah. I said, do you want me to come as, because I had just done something called the All-American Massacre with Toby Hooper's son, Tony. And through that, I met a guy named Todd Bates, who was a makeup guy who loved Chop Top and could do the Chop Top makeup. So I asked my buddy if he wanted me to come as Chop Top, and he said, well, I'll have to find out. Chop Top's not a universal character, and this was kind of an in-house award show. So he talked to some people, and they said, well, Bill was in Army of Darkness, so he's part of the Universal family, whatever that is. And so, yeah, he can come as Chop Top. So, I brought along my makeup guy. I did the whole show as Chop Top. I had a ratty tuxedo, and did the whole thing in character. And when it was time to introduce Rob Zombie, who had won one of the awards, I did, and Rob comes out, and I think Super Beasto was playing on the screen and everything, Rob Zombie. And I didn't really know Rob that well. Actually, it was my daughters, I think my daughter was 13 at the time, and her little buddies, they were all into Hellbilly Deluxe. And so they had come just to see Rob Zombie. And Rob came out, and he took one look at me, and he had a moment, he kind of freaked out, because he told me later that he was standing backstage, and he said, from what he could hear, he thought, that guy out there is doing a decent Chop Top. And then he comes out and realizes, holy shit, it's the guy. And so he got his award and everything, and I met him backstage, him and Sherry, and his parents were there. I think it was basically the first award he'd ever actually won. I think he'd been nominated for, Grammys and stuff, but that was the first, actual award. And so I talked to him a little bit, and we had a great time. I introduced my daughter, her friend, everybody was happy. And about a month later, I got a call from Rob's manager, Andy Gould. So that was December probably of 1999. And Andy said, Rob just had this movie greenlit, which means, the money, by Universal called House of a Thousand Corpses. Would you like to be in it? Now, keep in mind, at that time, I think I was having trouble getting extra work because the extra casting company was mad at me for something. So when Andy said, would you like to be in this movie, I was like, yeah. And what I thought Rob wanted originally was kind of a warmed over Chop Top. I thought he wanted his version of Chop Top. And it's so funny that Rob knew what he wanted. He wanted a bare-chested badass. I certainly didn't think of myself as having that in me. And God bless Rob, he kind of gently but firmly pried my hands off Chop Top, because that was my character, man. And, he kind of gently led me to Otis. I was still in the middle of House of a Thousand Corpses. I was still trying to find Otis. I was saying the lines and looking the part. But I didn't really feel like I was Otis until maybe 6 weeks after we had finished House of a Thousand Corpses. he needed to shoot some extra stuff, and so we went to Wayne Todd, the makeup guy's studio, and we shot the Run Rabbit Run scene. Where Otis is kind of, it's Otis's philosophy, hunt the human, see nothing but nothing, they all run like scared little rabbits, run rabbit. And in that moment, I oh my God, this is Otis. I didn't even know, I was kind of close to Otis, but I didn't really get that until then. And I was so grateful that we did, again, Devil's Rejects. It was the first and only sequel I've ever been in to play the same character. And, so I think that if I did a good job in Devil's Rejects, it really was because, I thought of House of a Thousand Corpses as where I was kind of like, walking around the car, maybe kicking the tires, and then, by Devil's Rejects, the car was mine and I was taking it out for a spin. So that's a long fucking answer.